Welcome to Wilmick's Law Practice Information Podcast. I'm Tom Watson. I'm speaking with Marie Stanton. Marie is managing partner at Hurley, Burrish & Stanton in Madison. Marie practices primarily in injury law, civil litigation, professional liability, and mediation. Marie, what do you love about your practice?
Tom, I love the variety. I've been practicing 34 years, and it's a pleasure to see people that I've seen before, but also to see new clients with new interests and things that we can attack and serve them and make life a little easier.
Tell me about the challenges you face.
Well, in today's world, there's a couple of different kinds of challenges. First of all, maintaining and keeping clients in this economy is a large challenge. Serving them here in Madison, where they have their choice of many lawyers, and retaining them is particularly a challenge. Also, the cases themselves can be challenging. I'm a civil litigator. That means people come to me when there's problems. It's not usually because something good has happened, but something bad has happened. So we're helping people at a time when they're stressed. They need services, they need to pay for them, and they need a way out of a problem.
Now, with the economy changing as it has in the last 9 months, 10 months, you mentioned the economic challenges. Is the practice of law evolving based on the economy? Do you need to do things differently? Are clients different? How has the economy, I guess, impacted the practice of law?
Well, in several different ways. Functionally, we're told that there are more individuals appearing pro se in the courtroom, that simply they can't afford lawyers. That has impacted, I'm told, for example, in divorce law and family law, people taking on their own cases, or maybe even not getting divorced. From more of the marketing side, what we like to do is stress the relationship with clients, to take care of our clients, maybe go that extra mile, and frankly, at times, do more for less money.
Now, you're a 14-lawyer firm. That's pretty good size for Wisconsin. Certainly a lot bigger than many of the solos and 2 and 3 lawyer firms that we see around the state. How is it different practicing in a bigger firm like this as opposed to the smaller firm? And you've done both.
Right. I've been with a firm with as few as 2 lawyers, myself and another, but my first civil firm was about this size at 12 lawyers. There's pluses and minuses of both. Certainly in a very small firm, you can turn that boat and direction around very quickly. A couple of cases can swamp the firm and make you this or that kind of practitioner for a few months or a few years. The benefits of a larger firm certainly are the collegiality and the pool of information. The resources are larger. The client base is broader. The ability to market and contact clients is kind of a I can't think of the word, Tom. It's an arithmetic word, but it multiplies faster. And with size comes a little bit more stress and administration, but with size comes additional opportunity. I
spend a fair amount of time at both law schools in Wisconsin, and the perception among students seems to be in the big firm there's more pressure on billable hours and that sort of thing, and that it takes away from your personal life as opposed to a small firm. I think that all depends on the firm. I don't think you can make that statement in a blanket fashion. But tell me, how would you respond to that?
Well, we don't consider ourselves a big firm. We actually are a little more family-oriented, with families starting here. Every Thursday, the lawyers get together and we have lunch together. Most certainly, everybody is on a first-name basis. We have our specialty areas, our focus areas, but we're really not in teams, which you might see in a larger firm. And I still bring in bagels every Tuesday, even though I'm managing partner, so you can see the types of tasks I do vary in importance, and that's a very important task. But I would say in our firm, there is not a pressure to bill. In fact, we stay away from that. There is a pressure, if you will, to build relationships. That's what this firm has lived on. We're a firm that depends on our business largely from referrals and referrals from other lawyers. We're a low advertising firm. So it varies surely from firm to firm, but even what I'd call a mid-sized firm does not have to put the pressure of billable hours on its associates.
Do you think there is a difference in culture sometimes at the bigger firms versus a 2 or 3 person firm?
Well, definitely. I mean, being with a 2-person firm myself for many years in Green Bay, there's a certain laid-backness about it. I think people treat you differently. They expect different things, sometimes more, sometimes less. But, I think it's in the individual. On any given day, we have a lot of sport shirts around here. Our casual Fridays are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So I think it's the image you present, and we just don't want to present a striped suit and tie image.
You mentioned the collegiality. I assume you that gives you, particularly a young associate, an opportunity to seek out mentors, to seek guidance and advice, maybe more readily than if you're in a small firm, or even if you're hanging out your own shingle as a solo. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, there's no question that younger lawyers will pair up with someone more senior, either in age and experience here. And work directly with lawyers, but hands-on. We don't have lawyers who are in the background who don't meet clients. But at the same time, we like to see our young lawyers accelerate as quickly as possible. So while there is mentoring, we nudge them out of the nest just as quickly as we can.
Describe the challenges and the benefits to your clientele. What are the challenges you face with your clients? What are the things you like about your clients? I know that's a very broad question, but kind of put in perspective for maybe a young lawyer in particular who might be hearing this, describing the different, I guess the extremes you can see on that spectrum, good client versus bad client, if there is such a thing.
Well, you have to know how to size up your clients and determine for yourself what is going to be a successful representation. The first thing you can't do is let the clients decide whether you did a good job or not. Certainly, if you can resolve something, whether it's a mediation or a licensing dispute over a professional license or an injury claim, your clients are happy, you're happy. So if you can accomplish that, we feel good. In my practice, I will tell clients they can win or they can lose when we decide what options we might elect. And I'm convinced they stop listening after the word win. So there are times when there are disappointing outcomes and your clients are unhappy with what occurred, and inevitably some of that might transfer to you. And those are the challenges of outcome. And then I think the third thing simply is understanding that some clients just aren't happy. They're not happy with what's happened to them. They're not happy that they're coming to see a lawyer. And you'll probably never make them happy, but hopefully can give them good professional service.
So how do you deal with a client who you know will never be happy?
Well, number one, you set realistic expectations of outcome at the beginning. And you never over-talk your case or promise something you can't deliver. The second thing is you need to keep that client promptly and timely informed. A client who's unhappy at the start is going to be unhappy at the middle. And one of the main things they can complain about is, my lawyer's doing nothing for me. I never hear from my lawyer. I put in $3,000 in the trust account and I haven't seen a darn thing. So you need to keep an unhappy client informed. Those two things, realistic expectations and keeping them informed, tend to calm down an unhappy client. And in my experience, they like me better at the end.
Let's talk about something more fun, like good clients. That's got to be easier, I guess. Huh?
Well, what is a good client? You can mistake a good client for somebody who's happy with the result, and that's a good experience. I think a good client from a lawyer perspective is somebody that you shape into a good client in the sense that you communicate well with them and they communicate well back. You give them a fair billing situation and they pay the bills. That makes for a happy relationship. And certainly if you can work together to the degree the client can understand the process and you make it understandable, that's a positive client.
As you look back on all the years you've been practicing, not to imply that you've practiced a long time, but are there certain things about the practice that you would change, or things that you, approaches you've taken that you would change as you look back?
That's an interesting question. I'm viewing the practice now from somebody with plus 30 years experience, and of course, in order to do that, there was a time when I viewed it with plus 3 years experience. I think one thing I've learned is about lawyers. Lawyers have value whether they are young or old, whatever color, size, and shape they come in. And as a practitioner with 3 decades, I remind myself all of the time that there's a talent level in every lawyer. And you don't ever want to assume that a lawyer is less talented because they're less experienced. So a respect for a lawyer at any age, I think, is important. And frankly, the younger lawyer, what they lack sometimes in training and experience, they can make up for with zest and enthusiasm and preparedness and get the job done, sometimes better than the rest of us.
And speaking of that, relationships with other lawyers, I think we've all who have practiced have experienced different kinds of relationships, some good, some bad. How do you deal with relationships with other lawyers?
Well, every lawyer on another case is not going to be your friend, so we want to accept that. I think if you can build a relationship with a lawyer either during the case or even outside of the case, that's probably one of the biggest riches of a law practice. Mutual respect and appreciation for each other's work as well as a good laugh. And sometimes doing battle really can make good friends. But not all lawyers get along, and a lot of lawyers are full of themselves. And with those, you just kind of go by the book. Things are in writing, and the calls are prompt and courteous, and you move on to the next lawyer.
I've heard some older lawyers kind of lament the lack of collegiality now that they say existed, back in the 60s and 70s or whatever. And not all feel that way, but some do. What's your take on the level of collegiality today?
Well, I won't overlook that you've lumped me in the older lawyer question now 2 times, Tom. I am still vertical in breathing. But in terms of the take, I think it varies. One thing I learned early is that young lawyers really respond and almost act like the older or more senior lawyer that brings them along. If you had a good teacher in your first job, young lawyers tend to be good people. If you had a snarly, self-centered son of a gun in your first job, young lawyers tend to adopt some of those characteristics. So I forgot the rest of your question with that early insult, but other than that, what can I tell you?
The level of collegiality, do you think it's better, worse?
Thanks. I would say the level of collegiality is probably about the same. I think there are more lawyers now than there were before. There's certainly more women lawyers, more minority lawyers, and as a result, I think there's more friendship. Particularly with young lawyers, and they're willing to reach out. But I think there always has been. So I don't really see any difference. There's some lawyers that are cranky and some lawyers that aren't, and I just see the same thing.
You think the diversity in the ranks of lawyers is a good thing? You mentioned, minorities, women. I was reading about Sandra Day O'Connor not too long ago about how she graduated near or at the top of her class from Stanford and couldn't get a law job. And today I think we've overcome some of that. But how do you see the profession now in terms of diversity? Are we where we need to be, or farther? Do we need to get farther along?
I don't know that I can answer that to say, do we need to get farther along, because frankly, as sitting here, I can't really speak to what the statistics are. I just don't know. Certainly there is greater diversity, and it's a thrill to see as many women lawyers as there are. I remember 20-some years ago introducing Shirley Abrahamson as a speaker in Green Bay when she had just taken the Supreme Court seat. And noting that when she graduated from Indiana University, first in her law school, the suggestion by one professor was that perhaps she could find a job in a law library. And of course, she's worked a lot in libraries since then. So, we've made these enormous strides, and we're down now to the subtle points of the minorities and the glass ceiling and so forth. But all I can tell you is that it is absolutely refreshing to see as many women and minorities contributing to the profession as they have.
How about outside activities outside of your office to enhance your professional life, whether it's state bar activities or the like? What would be your advice to younger lawyers who are getting going in this profession and are thinking, what do I need to do to either become more well-rounded as a lawyer or network with lawyers? Are there outside activities that you would recommend?
Well, for about 15 years, I gained quite a bit by involving myself in state bar activities. As I noted, I was in Green Bay at the time, and any cities outside of Madison and Milwaukee can feel a little bit isolated. So getting a little bit more of a statewide feel for things and making contacts that will serve as business referrals can clearly be enhanced on a statewide level simply by getting involved in the state bar. On the other hand, if you're looking for business relationships, joining anything is always a plus. Lawyers who market themselves want to be seen first and foremost as trusted and capable, not so much as a good lawyer. That follows. So my advice to lawyers is, if you're looking on the business side, state bar or business organizations. If you're looking on the personal side, and good for you, get some exercise.
Thank you, Marie.
You're welcome.
You've been listening to a Law Practice Information Podcast, a service of Wisconsin Lawyers Mutual Insurance Company. For more information about our company, visit www.wilmic.com or call 1-800-373-3839.